Welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa, one of the friendliest service clubs in town. I'm Rhonda Daniel, club president. We are so glad that you made a choice to come here today. Let's begin our meeting having our volunteers come forward. Kathleen Cohen will lead our song and pledge. Piano today is by our talented Tom Wolf. Visitor introduction by Kathy Gurrell. And now our invocation will be given by past president John O'Connor.
Thank you. Please join me in prayer. Dear Father, we trust you. We trust you with every aspect of our lives. We pray that the fruit of our trust in you is evident in everything we think, say, and do. We pray that it's evident in the fact that we tell the truth in every situation, that what we do is fair to all concerned, in the fact that all we do builds goodwill and better friendships, and in the fact that what we do is beneficial to all concerned. We trust you and thank you for Rotarians and their work all over the world, and especially for our fellow members in this club with whom we get to work every day. And we thank you for this meal and for our speaker today and the great works that their enterprise and foundation do in our community. In thy name, amen.
I'd like to do God Bless America with you. We did it last week with Joseph, and it was magnificent. And while I was trying to find the words, I found a couple things I want to share with you before we do it. First of all, God Bless America was written by Irving Berlin. I mean, who would have known? And it became a very, he wrote it in 1918 and revised it in 1938 as the war in Europe was heating up, shall we say, and he thought we needed to have a song like this that could be a prayer, really, for peace and for God's blessing on our nation. On 1938, Kate Smith, everybody raise their hand. Who knows Kate Smith? Katie, okay. Anyway, she was an incredible singer in her day of 1938 and sang that for the very first time publicly, and it became really a very important anthem for the entire nation. So let us join together and with a wonderful, wonderful Tom Wolf, and all together, let's go. Now join me in the mid-pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
I want to welcome you to the Rotary Club of Tulsa, Club number 2550. And I'd like to personally welcome the following guests. Will you please stand with your host, and we will recognize you at the end of the announcements. Matt Murator is the guest of Jerry Murator, father. Reed Spears with the Kaiser Foundation is the guest of Bob Spears. Fred Jordan is the guest of John O'Connor. Tom Maxwell is the guest of Susan Meeker. Joe Roberts is the guest of Tim Nell. Sarah Fry is the guest of Kathy Garrell. Mary Fitzgerald is the guest of Bob Sade and Nicole Ganshar. Tommy Moses is the guest of Elaine Moore Jones. Johan Tallman is the guest of Tom Klenda. And Peter Jansen is the guest of Barney James, pardon me. Excuse me. Okay. We have one visiting Rotarian wherever he went, Ben Garrell from Southside Rotary. And let's give a hand for all of our guests today.
Thank you, volunteers. I'd like to take a moment to thank Rotary's sponsors today. I'm going to acknowledge Monty Curry with Bank First, even though he's another banker. I'll still give him some credit. Doug Stewart with J.D. Young. We encourage you to do business with your fellow Rotarians. In addition to today's sponsors, let's also thank all of our volunteers whose service makes our meeting run so well. And I know they come early and they do a lot of work before this meeting begins. So let's thank them. Committee meetings today is social media website. That's in room 234. Social service events is in the back of this room. And youth exchange is in room 233. So don't forget your committee meetings today. On behalf of the club, I'd like to extend condolences to Tommy Lynn. She's our accounting assistant who works in the office. Her sister passed away on Tuesday in Monroe, Arkansas. We'd also like to extend condolences to Jane Carlson on the passing of her father, A.J. Frank Jr. Services were held in Tulsa last week. Please keep these families in your prayers. Beverly is busy right now. She seems to be following up on several people, and one of them that she's following up with is Mike Fine. He was in good spirits. He's continuing radiation and chemo treatments after the doctor surgically removed a cancerous tumor above his ear. He really appreciated our cards, and I ask that you continue to lift Mike up with your prayers for strength and healing. Marty Alexander tells us that her father, a longtime Rotarian, Carl Wright, is recovering at a rehab center after a recent short stint in the hospital. Cards are on your tables, so please leave him a little note and extend well wishes to Carl. You may ask why there's another card on your table. There's a card for past President Doug Collins. We have found out that he began chemo treatment this week for throat cancer. So please drop him a nice note too on the cards, and we will make sure that he receives that. So a lot of prayers need to go up right now. Paul Bauman, if you would please come and tell us what you have for us today.
Thank you. Well, we did it. The Budget Committee has met, and the proposed budget's on your table for review. It was passed by the board Monday, August 18th, and if you served on the Budget Committee this year with me, if you could please stand and let us recognize you. And also Donna, I'd like to give a thanks to Donna for her work with the Budget Committee also, as every year she does a great job. Thank you. If you'll just give any questions or concerns you have with the budget after you review it to any of the members on the committee before next week's vote, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Let's give him a round of applause. I know how hard this has been this year. As Paul said, if you have any questions at all, please be sure to get with Paul. If you don't have all the information that you need, he'll be happy to provide that for you. Now we have something special. Tony Oliva, he is coming up this way, please. And what do you have in store for us today?
Thank you, President Rhonda. We'll be introducing some Paul Harris Fellows today. The Rotary Foundation is one of the largest and most important programs of Rotary. Without the foundation, Rotary could not continue in its many humanitarian programs and its efforts to promote world understanding, goodwill, and peace. The foundation is a nonprofit corporation supported solely by contributions from Rotarians and friends of the foundation who share its vision of a better world. The Paul Harris Society contributes to the Rotary Foundation support education, contributions to the Rotary Foundation support education, improvement of health, and alleviation of poverty that enables Rotarians to bring hope and promote international understanding throughout the world. Today, we are here to recognize our fellow Rotarians who are becoming Paul Harris Fellows. These recipients have contributed $1,000 gifts to the foundation. This recognition is Rotary's way of expressing its appreciation for a contribution to the foundation goals. It gives me great pleasure to present to the following Rotarian, on behalf of the trustees of the Rotary Foundation, a pin and certificate as they become a Paul Harris Fellow. Charles Flinton. As Rotarians donate beyond the initial $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation, recognition points are generated in their name that can be donated to others. A few of our fellow Rotarians have graciously donated their recognition points to honor the following Rotarians. Jake Dollarhide, a Paul Harris Fellow. It is a surprise. And so is the next one. Also a surprise is Beverly Marquardt, Paul Harris Fellow +1. Okay. Today, we are also recognizing fellow Rotarians who are multiple Paul Harris Fellows. Multiple Paul Harris Fellows have contributed additional $1,000 gifts above the initial contribution to the foundation. This recognition is Rotary's way of expressing its appreciation for a substantial contribution to the foundation goals. At this time, I'd like to recognize the following Rotarians on behalf of the trustees of the Rotary Foundation who have made it to the next level as multiple Paul Harris Fellows. Past President John O'Connor, Paul Harris Fellow +1. John Bumgarner, Paul Harris Fellow +2. Past President Del Dreyer, Paul Harris Fellow +5. And past President Bob McKenzie, Paul Harris Fellow +5. Please join me in congratulating and recognizing our multiple Paul Harris Fellows. At this time, I'd like to ask for all Paul Harris Fellows to stand and be recognized. Please join me in congratulating and recognizing all our Paul Harris Fellows. Back to you.
Thank you, Tony. That is quite exciting. All right, now we're going to have some project announcements. We're going to start with Terry Heritage. There you are. Terry, tell us what's going on today.
Thank you, Rhonda. Good afternoon, generous Rotarians. We made our goal again for Celia Clinton School Adopt-A-Class. As most of you know, we give each teacher a $100 gift certificate for Walmart and one for the Learning Tree. What you might not remember is that the principal, Tanya Davis, said this helps her recruit good teachers. It's a poor school. The teachers know they're not going to get the help that they would from the more affluent areas. So knowing that the Rotary Club of Tulsa adopted the school and that we do everything for them is a big recruiting tool. So I thank you. I would like to ask all the donors at this time to stand. Don't just pop up and down. Just stand for a second or two so we can see who you are, and thank you. Well, you did pop up and down, but your names should be on a rolling slide there, and I don't like to stand up here and take time. So thank you, and I'll see you again next year. Let's do it again. Thank you.
I don't know if I was missing it, but if she already said it, it's okay to say it twice. She collected $8,100 for that. So that is totally awesome. All right, Sarge Matthew Bristow, our Sergeant at Arms, what do you have for us today?
Good afternoon, generous Rotarians. Some more generous Rotarians. If we can get the slides up here. I was actually prompted last week to start talking through the slides, but I haven't the faintest idea who's on there, so it's helpful. There we go, I'm here. All right, quick reminder at the beginning, for those who aren't familiar with Rotary, all the gifts announced today go to our local foundation and its supports, including Celia Clinton, lots of other great local projects for Tulsa Rotary. So the money's going to a very good cause, goes to our foundation. The income that produces from that benefits this and many other projects. So thank you. So start off, Jim Taylor, $50. Jim's 35th wedding anniversary to April, and a $15 fine to April for saying yes. Thank you, Jim. I'm surprised it was only 15, but... And Joy Longmire, $100. Her birthday on August 31st, and a recent wedding anniversary to Mike. Thank you, Joy. Rod Sands, 48th wedding anniversary to Cindy, and 33 years in Rotary, so thank you very much, Rod. Oh, he's at the back there, I think with Cindy. So. Mayor Bartlett, if you'd like to stand up and let everyone know you're here. So, thank you. $100 from Mayor Bartlett. We have our chief catcher, Karen Keith, to thank for this one, and his kind friend Lloyd suggested that I should start fining Mayor Bartlett $100 for every time he appears in the Tulsa World. So I look forward to seeing your checkbook. Thank you. Steve August, $100 from Steve. His 22nd wedding anniversary, 3 times the fun it should be for $66. And then he's 34 years old, and then a few more. He lost count after that. So you'll notice they're standing in front of the Arkansas River here, which apparently was in San Francisco, but it's a future project for us. So thank you very much, Steve. Matt Davis, $100 from Matt, birthday on August 30th, and 1 year since the amazing Rebecca said yes. So congrats, Matt. We've got 2 weeks worth of fines here, in case you wonder why. So Phil Lakin, I had this slide ready for when he climbed his 100th Fortuna, but this was his first golden driller, which is his announcement of a $40 million planned giving challenge success. So $40 million was an incredible announcement. Congrats, Phil. Thank you. So my buddy David Downing gave $100. For those of you who haven't seen, Russell Gibbs has broken his collarbone, and I'm no expert, but I'm told that this has not been photoshopped. This is a picture of Russell on a dirt bike, as encouraged by David Downing. So it was a high-speed impact from a very high height. So thank you, David. So we have $200 from Ken Snoke, $100 for Crescendo, and $100, thank you, Ken, and $100 for Waterwells, his birthday on August 14th, and his 46th wedding anniversary on August 24th to Georgia. So congrats, Ken. And Georgia. Jim Burwell. Jim's back there. Thank you. $250 for Crescendo. And it's Jim's birthday today, so I won't sing, but happy birthday. Bob Rorschach. $250 from Bob. It's his 92nd birthday today, which is apparently still 8 days older than Dan Rogers. It's his 67th wedding anniversary, 34 years in Rotary, 19 descendants and spouses, and he wishes he felt like he was 38. So $250. Thank you, Bob. Ed Bentley, $250. Ed's 96th birthday on August 18th. So my hope is that when I'm 96, I'm still competing with someone who's just had their 92nd birthday and wanting to one-up them. So thank you. It's a good example to all of us. I had a late notice in here. I didn't have time to do a slide, but Bob Leneker, if you could stand up for us, $100 that Bob gave me a note in honor of the two founding directors we just announced of Inverness Village, who are incredible Rotarians. And if the three of you could all stand up together, Bob, if you could stand up, and then Bob and Ed, what an incredible example to all of us here. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It makes it a lot easier to raise money when you have this crew giving $600 in 1 week, so thank you very much. Tom Campbell, $100 for his 4th Rotary anniversary and his birthday on July 16th. We discussed a late fee for it being August and it being the 16th, so he said, how about $1,000? And I said, thank you very much. $1,000 for Waterwells. Thank you, everyone. What a great week. $2,500 plus to the Rotary Foundation. Thank you, gentlemen. And ladies. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. So exciting. I love all these pictures and everything that you're doing this year. Isn't he doing an outstanding job? I'm going to introduce the Rotarian of the Day, past President Phil Lakin. Phil is the Chief Executive Officer of the Tulsa Community Foundation. He joined our club in March 2000 and quickly rose through the ranks, serving in a number of club leadership roles before becoming president in 2011 and 12. He is both a Club Foundation Fellow and a Paul Harris Fellow. Please welcome Rotarian of the Day, past President Phil Lakin.
Thank you, President Rhonda. It's an honor to introduce to this club someone who I work with just about every single day of the week. Ken Levit works from the office just down the hall from me, where he's executive director of the George Kaiser Family Foundation. While many of the visionary ideas for funding projects and initiatives come directly from George, don't let Ken's humility fool you. He's equally as responsible for the good works that GKFF has done and is doing in and for this community. For more than 8 years, he has overseen hundreds of millions of dollars in community investments, has assembled what is arguably the best and most talented staff in all of Oklahoma, if not the region, if not the nation, and has created invaluable partnerships with major national foundations stretching from Seattle to New York, all of which will reap immeasurable benefit to those who are underserved and to those who have the most needs. The effects of Ken's good works will be beneficial to Tulsa and to all Tulsans for as long as all of us in this room shall live. Prior to taking on his leadership at GKFF, Mr. Levit served as president of a university that Baylor has never beat, the University of Oklahoma, Tulsa. Of course, that's because OU Tulsa does not have a football team. And I know some of you are trying to figure out when the last time Baylor beat OU was, and that was last year. From early 1998 through 2000, Mr. Levit was special counsel to George Tenet. George was director of the CIA. Mr. Levit was also with the law firm Crowe and Dunlevy from 1995 to 1998. He's involved in a ton of civic activities, from Teach for America to the Chamber to the Woody Guthrie Center. Ken is a Barnard Elementary graduate and a Holland Hall graduate. And if he needed any more education than that, he also went to Brown and to Yale, where he earned degrees. The best move he ever made was marrying, or asking him to marry, and eventually marrying Janet Coven Levit of Chicago, Illinois. Many of you know Janet. She's the University of Tulsa School of Law Dean. Janet is in the back of the room today. Thank you, Janet, for being here. They have a handsome son, Nathan, and a beautiful daughter, Rebecca. Please help me in recognizing to this stage Ken Levit.
Thank you, Phil. I really appreciate that. Those are very nice words coming from a person who I respect to an enormous degree. And even more importantly, you may not know it, Phil is actually my boss. So the George Kaiser Family Foundation has 3 board members: Phil Lakin, Phil Froelich, and Fred Dorwart. So this is 1/3 of all my supervision. No pressure here at all. You might notice that George Kaiser is actually not on the board. I do still take his phone calls, though. He has a big influence as the founder and the funder, but Phil really leads the show and does a great job. It's great to be at Rotary. It's always inspiring to be at Rotary. I'm glad my wife made it. She's in the back close to the door, which gives me a little bit of a worry here. Maybe she's heard the speech. And I see a lot of friends. I see people who were at my wedding. I see Dr. Norm Simon, who was at my bar mitzvah. So it feels very much like home being here. You mentioned Kate Smith and Irving Berlin with the song God Bless America. It's kind of interesting. Oklahoma's own Woody Guthrie. If you haven't visited the Woody Guthrie Center, I urge you to go there. Woody Guthrie really wrote the response to God Bless America also in 1937 with This Land Is Your Land, kind of his response to what he was seeing in the Depression. So all these things are exciting and reinforce the inspiration of being here today. Whenever I get up and speak at Rotary Club, I remember what Ken Neal once told me. He said, nobody has ever given a bad short speech. So I will keep that in mind as I go. I came here when I started my job at George Kaiser Family Foundation, and I set forth a little bit of what I understood our mission to be and sought your all suggestions about where we should focus to reach our mission, and got a lot of great ideas. And really what I wanted to do here today is mainly give you a project report with respect to one of our key areas of work, and that's the area of early childhood education. That's always been and still stands really as our core area, where we think our most promising strategy exists in early childhood education to create opportunity and break the cycle of poverty, the intergenerational cycle that afflicts so much of our country and our community, and how we can best attack that. Now, as you all know, and as Phil alluded, we've got a lot of other projects going on that we're enormously excited about. We're greatly pleased about all the revitalization going on downtown. Our work at the Brady District has been enormously satisfying. Mayor Bartlett, I saw a slide the other day that in the last 5 years, there's been $1 billion of new investment in the downtown Tulsa. That's really extraordinary. You know, we've got an exciting partnership with the University of Tulsa over at the Kendall Whittier District. We call that our Promise Neighborhood. It's a partnership with Tulsa Public Schools, with TU, with the social service providers, and we're seeing a great level of progress there, which excites us. We're happy about what's going on at Guthrie Green. We're obviously thrilled about the progress that we're making as a community, our partnership with River Parks Authority on the Gathering Place, the 100-acre park down to the Arkansas River. We've got amazing partners on this project. I see friends, Tim Colwell from Williams. They made a $16 million commitment to this project over 10 years. John Bumgarner and his family have made a commitment. So we and the community are all really rallying to do something that I think will be a game changer for Tulsa and really launch us into a whole new era of growth and excitement. And speaking of that, September 20th, we're going to have a groundbreaking. So I invite all of you, your kids, your cousins, your church, to join us. We expect to have a few thousand people there on the property having kind of an old-fashioned party. So please come with us on September 20th. We're going to have a long 3 years of construction down there. John Bumgarner always tells me it ought to be more like 2 years, not 3 years, but we're trying to make it happen as quickly as possible. But we'll have 3 years of, we'll have to take a few patience pills to get us to the final moment, but I think it's going to be a terrific park and an opportunity for all of Tulsa. But again, I want to really focus on our core mission, which at the foundation revolves around realizing the American promise of equal opportunity for all children in our community. Really, in a way, takes us back to Irving Berlin, God Bless America, and Woody Guthrie, this land was made for you and me. Let me put it in the words of another Oklahoman, not Woody Guthrie, but George Kaiser. He has a saying which I think is quite pithy and appropriate. No child is responsible for the circumstances of his or her birth. No child is responsible for the circumstances of his or her birth. But unfortunately, too often, even in modern American society, those family circumstances increasingly determine a child's future, the very odds of success or failure. Well, that's not what America was meant to be. That's not what we seek for America. We seek a society of equal opportunity. And for that reason, we at the foundation, and under George's guidance and the board's leadership, try to find those strategies that most open up those doors of opportunity and invest in those areas. And from our earliest days, and I think we're getting increasingly confident that this has been the right bet, we've decided that the best investment we can make is in early childhood education. And you can consult the top brain scientists in the world or Nobel Prize-winning economists like James Heckman, who, by the way, is actually from Gotebo, Oklahoma. It's a true story. But even talk to your local kindergarten teachers. We all know, it's obvious, a child is born learning. And in the first 3 years, the most important, the biggest leap in brain development occurs, those first 3 years. So there's a huge takeaway to consider here when we understand what brain science has made clear, that 80% of brain development occurs in the first 3 years. Don't worry, Phil Lakin, you still got 20% left, there's still hope. But you couple the fact of early brain development as being so key with the understanding that brain development at the same time is actually derived from what? Interaction and engagement. Couple those two thoughts. First 3 years, where the brain development occurs, and how does brain development occur? Interaction and engagement. Well, you can reach an aha moment if you ponder those 2 points, because it teaches us something that's really pretty essential, and that's that life experience trumps genetics. Our futures are not preordained. Our success in school is not in our genetic code. And we, through engagement and interaction and education, can change the life trajectory for children. We just have to do the work to get her done. And the evidence behind this realization is growing in strength every day. We see it on the national level from world-class researchers who are studying this issue, and we actually see it from scientists and researchers who are following our work, your work, here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I think most of you know that in Oklahoma, we have a nation-leading early education system. I mean, it actually resulted mainly from the work of the business community in Tulsa, and in Oklahoma City, but actually led from Tulsa about 20 years ago. And it's evolved and created a system that is really the gem of the country. And we've recently supplemented universal pre-K in Oklahoma with a very strong public-private partnership on birth through 3 education. I see Representative Fred Jordan here, who in the legislature helped champion that public-private partnership on birth through 3 education. So in Oklahoma, we not only give access to early education, but we also mandate high quality. Every pre-K teacher in Oklahoma must have a bachelor's degree. By the way, that's singular. That doesn't exist in any other state. Must be early childhood certified, must be paid a public school wage. That's also a pretty revolutionary concept because most teachers of really young children are paid fast food style wages rather than paid in a professional manner. And we have a child staff ratio of 10-to-1 to ensure that everybody's getting a good experience. All right, so that's on the input side. How are we doing? What are the results? Well, I'm going to tell you about a couple studies here. So I know for a Baylor guy, this may be tough to follow, but stick with me. A prominent Georgetown professor named Bill Gormley did a very exhaustive study of how we were performing in Tulsa as a result of our investment in early education, the public investment in pre-K. Basically, he found that we were generating phenomenal improvements in school readiness. So let's look at students as a whole, and this is what he found. Kindergarten students who attended the Tulsa pre-K program are 9 months ahead of their peers in reading, 7 months ahead in writing, and 5 months ahead in math. And interestingly, both disadvantaged students and more middle-class students had statistically significant results from these pre-K experiences. Disadvantaged students benefited more, but all students were gaining benefit. There was also something extraordinary that was determined by researching English language learners, more specifically, Hispanic students whose parents came from Mexico. As we all know, an increasingly high percentage of our children in Tulsa public schools. For Hispanic children whose parents primarily speak Spanish at home, what were the results? Well, those kids who had pre-K scored 12 months better than the control group, those who didn't have pre-K, in reading, 4 months better in writing, 10 months better in math. That's pretty significant gain for 1 year of pre-K. One other point that the study found, which I actually think might be the most important part. We also know that these programs are producing significant socio-emotional impacts. What does that mean? In concrete terms, they found that if you participated in a pre-K program or high-quality early childhood program, the children were, in kindergarten, more attentive, less timid, more engaged, and really just better behavior results. If you've ever gone to visit EduCare, and I invite any of you to come to see our program there or at Community Action Project, I'd love to host you. That's actually what I find the most stunning part of it all, is the behavior that you witness with these young children at 2, 3 years old. Sitting family style for a meal, which I wish I could replicate in my own home, learning to take turns, following directions, standing in line, etc. I always think to myself, maybe all you need to know in life you really can learn in kindergarten, or better yet, before. But there is one key part of that message. Somebody has to teach you those things. And in not all of our homes is that happening. So these centers and some of these programs teach those key social and emotional skills that are maybe as important to success than anything we think about in terms of IQ and basic education. Now, I want to add one other thing to the mix here as far as the research. And you might be amazed by this. Frankly, I have been as I've learned and experienced this job more and more. And it's this. We've come to understand better now than ever that starting in pre-K, or age 4 and 5, is too late. I mean, that's early for most people, but actually not earlier enough if we're serious about giving every child an equal opportunity to achieve the American dream, which I think we'd all agree is maybe our fundamental American value. So let me try to explain. Now, Phil, I got one more study for you. It involves some math. I think you can do this. There was some pretty interesting research that came out of the University of Kansas. I know there are a couple Jayhawk fans here. These researchers devised a very exhaustive methodology that I think yields something kind of interesting. They studied for 3 years a sampling of all the words spoken to young children in their family environments from 42 families from 3 different socioeconomic groups, okay? So what were the 3 socioeconomic groups? Well, families on public assistance, working class homes, and the third were professional homes. Then they tallied up the words heard by those kids in these 3 economic classes in their family environments. Well, the differences were actually pretty astounding. Children in professionals' home, we're talking about the first 4 years of life, were exposed to an average of more than 1,500 additional spoken words per hour than in the homes from families in public assistance. Now, over 1 year, this is where the math gets kind of tricky, I know, but that amounted to a difference of nearly 8 million words. Over the course of 4 years, that gap, families in public assistance homes, what number of words children are hearing versus those from higher income families, 8 million times 4, that's 32 million words a gap. That's a pretty remarkable number of words based the 3 sets of kids here. And it also found a difference in the complexity of the words, the tone of the words, etc. Well, words are words, and words don't matter just in and of themselves, but they do as far as it relates to vocabulary and comprehension. And at 36 months, high-income families had little toddlers that knew 1,100 words, while toddlers in low-income families had a vocabulary knowledge of 400 words. So almost a 300% difference of word comprehension when at 36 months. So we know about gaps in middle school and high school based on income and class, but that's a pretty remarkable gap in just the first 36 months. Now, in my mind, there's a disturbing, this is in a way disturbing, but in a way maybe hopeful also as far as the path that it could point. I mean, on the disturbing side, yes, it's heart-wrenching to see huge differentials in comprehension and education that emerge so early in life. And especially, I think, in my own home, when you start adding SAT practice and summer school and summer camp and all these other things, these differences in what some families are able to offer their kids and others really is astounding. But now, again, we're talking the first 36 months. On the other hand, if we're talking about vocabulary and words heard, it feels like it's something that we could address, that we as a community can do something about. And maybe it's not all that difficult. We're taking a shot at this at the George Kaiser Family Foundation, and I kind of want to share with you what our initial ideas are and get your input too, today, tomorrow, next week, next month, etc. Because we'll need your help as we deal with this issue, the word gap, the vocabulary gap, the early education challenge we face. So we recently launched a project we call Talking is Teaching. And the basic premise is pretty simple. Talking is Teaching is our effort to empower parents and caregivers to boost young children's brain development and build their vocabularies by increasing the number of words they hear spoken to them every single day, okay? So what's our first challenge? We've got to reach these kids. We've got to reach the children, and more importantly, the folks, you all, our friends, our peers, our neighbors, who interact with them every single day. Kind of interesting because when you talk about reaching the youngest kids, we're talking about reaching kids that are 1, 2, 3, and 4. It has to be a community-wide effort. I mean, we know where the older kids are. They're in school, they're in boys and girls clubs, they're at the Y, they're in institutional settings. But where are the kids in the first 3 years? Well, they're with us. They're with parents, they're with grandparents, they're with big brother, big sister, they're with the doctors, the pediatricians, churches, playgroups, the park, the zoo, going to the grocery store. That's where they are. And that's where we need to help parents interact with their youngest children. So while we've spent the last 10 years at the foundation really focusing on centers, center-based early child education, the places run by Crosstown and Community Action Project of Tulsa County and EduCare, which are places of great pride for us, and we're serving almost 2,000 kids in those settings, we're now trying to find a way to reach maybe 10,000 children a year. And I think that's going to be an interesting challenge, and it's going to take outreach, and we have to learn about how best to reach out to families and caregivers and influence them about how they interact with their kids. So we're going to start this community-wide effort of reading and singing and talking and playing and praying with the toddlers of Tulsa. Again, I'm going to quote George, who says, "Our science-based premise is that constructive communication between adults and children during the first few months and years of life is the clearest path that we have found to restoring the birthright of equal opportunity for young children. In simple terms, our goal is to help our young children be smart, strong, kind, and ultimately more likely to be successful in life." So what are we going to do specifically? And I'm going to show some slides that I think will paint the picture here. We're going to use some ordinary items, placemats, grocery carts, billboards, visual means to encourage parents and remind them of the importance of talking, singing, teaching, reading to their young children. We're going to work with churches all across Tulsa, north, south, east, and west, and places of worship in all sections of the city to advance their reading night efforts and their outreach to new parents. We hope you'll see some of these ads in English and in Spanish on billboards, buses, TV, and radio, mostly starting in the fall. One of our partner cities actually had an interesting idea. They had a citywide baby shower. They're doing this every month, where all expectant moms and dads come to a park and where they could relax and talk and secure materials that help them deal with the first 6 months of life and also that encourage them to read, sing, talk to their young kids. I think, imagine a baby shower with 1,000 pregnant moms. I mean, I think we should do that at Food Truck Wednesday down at Guthrie Green. But after all, it's kind of obvious. Every parent wants what's best for their child. But often, they need help. I needed help in providing the best tools to provide cognitive, social, emotional stimulation to help that baby get off to the best track. So one major aspect of our strategy will be to reach moms, dads, and ultimately the babies at these moments when they are most receptive to thinking about parenting and best practices. We had a series of focus groups, and it was kind of fascinating to hear what families, who moms and dads trusted. Sorry, Mayor Bartlett, they do not trust politicians. I mean, they do not want to hear from a politician. Who do they want to hear from? Doctors, nurses, their family members, their peer groups. So that's why we're going to try to partner with those entities. Tulsa's hospitals, our pediatricians. We're going to work closely with Dr. Bob Block, who was formerly OU Chair of Pediatrics, to reach parents and babies at the hospital, at the window after delivery, and in subsequent doctor visits. Plus, we need to create a peer network, and we're working with OSU on this, to have promotores, leaders in communities, Hispanic community, African American community, other parts of the community who will be modeling behavior and interacting with their peer groups. And I am really excited to say we are working with Sesame Street also to create a toolkit for every mom and new baby in the city. Yes? Oh, there it is. Elmo is on the way. So the geniuses at Sesame Street have really been terrific partners, and in the fall we will have a toolkit which Sesame Street is really the author of, and every single new mom and new dad will get this toolkit the day of the baby's delivery. So I'll show you a few other slides and make this more concrete, and we'll get close to the end here. Can't see the time, but okay. Oh my God, 12:59? Interesting, that went really fast. Okay, these are some of the materials that we'll be working with. Billboards, prompts on buses, at bus stations, placards, tote bags, even little onesies that are prompts to help mom and dad talk to their kids, bath towels, things to prompt folks at bedtime to say their prayers and talk and sing. So I'll conclude. This went a little longer than I expected, but at least I enjoyed it, so I hope I didn't get Look, when we talk to that little infant from the moment we meet him or her, when we read, sing, we're building brain capacity. We can create the opportunity for that child to live up to his or her potential. This does not cost big money. It's not a big government program. We don't even have to build a building. It requires us to talk, sing, read to our babies and young children. It's about a small investment that can have a huge return, not just for the child, but for all of us. It's really quite obvious, even if it took us 8 years to get to this point. So that's what's next for our foundation. It's probably harder than the big park that we're all working on, but it's just as important, probably more. And like all of our efforts, it will succeed only if you can be there to help us work on it. Thank you very much.
How exciting. If I could have it my way, I would have this whole room full of babies, and that would be my job. I could read and sing and talk all day long to them. The speaker book today is, we are presenting to our partner in education school, Celia Clinton Elementary. It's Underwater Animals, 3D Snapshot Series. And I'll have you subscribe a little something in there. And our upcoming programs is Frank Haith, head coach, University of Tulsa men's basketball, is next week. And then on September 3rd, we have Pat Jerkensmeyer with JM Farms, and he's the president. So be sure to come to that too. As we conclude, here are a few bars from Starlight by Muse for some light up Rotary fun to brighten your day. So please listen to the words. We are adjourned.